So how do you build a business which is going to make money while you're sleeping? How do you build a product which gets better by itself without you putting a lot of effort? And how do you tap into talent for which you don't have to pay for? The companies who have figured these out are now valued $500 billion in market capitalization. Over the next 20 minutes, we'll talk about what is the landscape of platforms today, and how are they evolving, how are they becoming a lot more intelligent, and a set of playbooks that will help you build or enhance your existing platforms. If you look at our daily life of any of a leader here, we start the day, we use Alexa, we use Siri to check weather, to check news. We end the day watching Netflix. And during our professional life, we use Azure. Our teams are using Azure, GitHub, which is enabling the engineering organization. We are using LinkedIn. We are using Drop for talent for driving strategic workforce planning, your talent transformation. And you're using Slack and Zoom for driving collaboration and collaborating with your global engineering teams across various locations across the world. So really, platforms are everywhere in both our professional as well as personal life. And when we look at these platforms, we are able to categorize them into 5 types of platforms. The first type of platforms are insight platforms, which provides insights around how an organization works. Palantir is a great example of what an insight platform is. Then you have technology, tech infrastructure platform. These are mega platforms on top of which other platforms are built. Right? Azure or Ali Cloud are good examples of such platforms. Third are consumer platforms, Uber, Facebook, all of these are consumer platforms which we use for daily lives. And fourth is service platform. The service platforms enable services to be seamlessly provided both for professionals as well as consumers. If you look at a Tesla, the updates to Tesla's even electric powertrain or the infotainment system is directly done through the services platforms. Finally, it's about asset platforms which helps you track, automate, and manage physical assets, in some level human assets as well. You have platforms like ThinkWorks, which allows companies to automate their entire factory and supply chain. So those are examples of asset platforms. So these are 5 types of platforms. And these platforms are not just developed in the US, right? The first 10 years of platform journey was the companies in Asia were replicating the platform which is built in the US. They're mirroring that. But what is happening, because of the nature of the platform, the innovation from the ecosystem is making the platform evolve and make it very unique for each of the local ecosystem. How many of you use Facebook this morning? Great. So already if I asked this question 5 years ago, almost everybody would have raised their hand. There were really hardly any people. What is happening with Facebook? Frankly, it's getting boring. And the realization all of us have got is, unfortunately, a lot of the friends we have in life are not very interesting. Right? So the platforms which has been built in the last 10 years is based on how well, who do you follow, who do you connect. But the next generation of platform, which is largely built out of China, is frictionless social engagement platforms. How many of you used TikTok before? So hardly anybody here know about TikTok. And TikTok has 500 million users. It's a frictionless social engagement platform where your videos keep popping up. The amount of time you spend on video, if you like the video, the machine learning algorithm in the back end is refining the feed for you and making it better and better. Right? That's one of the major innovations happened in China in the last couple of years. And now you go home and ask your kids about TikTok, most of them probably know and they're already using TikTok. Right? And the next generation of platforms are really coming from there. And the other, not just for consumers, if you look at India Stack, the government in India has built a series of platforms. Right? One of the interesting platforms they have built is around data consent. If you look at, you want to do credit history, you go to Equifax, You go to Equinix. They're using technology and methodology built over the last 50 years, right? You need a 1 credit score, and they use it. So it's not really changed in the US. When India, because of the India stack, the consent layer provides complete access for anybody's bank transactions, a telecommunication transaction, in fact, your social media transaction, so that if you want, the bankers want to give you a lending, they can look at your behavior across all of these platforms and make a meaningful decision rather than looking at 1 credit score and making a decision if you're credit worthy or not, especially in a country like India where hardly people have credit cards. Now, how do you provide credit history for people like that? So there are very interesting newer innovations around platforms which are coming from various Asian countries, and some of this is going to get exported into the US. And here is a map we did where we mapped the market capitalization of companies and revenue growth of the companies, market capitalization growth and revenue growth over the last 4 years. And you can clearly see the platform, the native platform companies are growing much faster, even the tech giants. They're growing much faster than the legacy companies for sure, right? And take an example of Zoom. Zoom is going to go IPO quite in the next couple of weeks. And then if you look at the history, the story of Zoom, the founder of Zoom was an engineer in WebEx Group, right? How many of you are from Cisco? Okay. So WebEx was bought by Cisco, and you asked the CEO, hey, we didn't like how Cisco treated us. I went back and I started Zoom. Right? So the moral of the story is if you buy a company, treat the employees well, or they're going to build your own competitor. Right? So you have very interesting next generation companies like Zoom, which are getting built, which are completely platform native companies. And when you look at the evolution of these platforms, and they're getting a lot more intelligence, and we have the 6 dimensions how we believe the next generation platforms are getting evolved. We call it simple, and S is fish. So you have these platforms able to dynamically and rapidly build applications on top of these platforms. These platforms are intelligent. They're designed to evolve, learn using data analytics and machine learning. These platforms are modular. They are structured as microservices, and each part of the platform is independent and unable to use by third party directly. And that's one of the biggest difference of platforms. And fourth is pooled, where the platforms are built in a way the ecosystem can build on top of the platform to make it highly differentiated. And fifth, it's low touch. These platforms are designed in a way it's deployed through automated next generation DevOps processes. And finally, it's experiential. A lot of these platforms are built customer in, understanding what the customer is looking for rather than platform out, right? And unlike the traditional way how the products are built, really these are understanding customers, and these platforms are built customer in. So these are 6 different ways, and we'll talk about different types of platforms with some examples. If you look at IoT, and this is a very interesting set of platforms where you see it's already modular and pooled. Take an example of automotive. The automotive companies differentiated each other by the size of the engine. Right? My car has a bigger engine. Right? My car performance is much better than your car. But it's moved completely into a model where the cars are talking about the in-car experience more than the performance of the engines in the car. So if you look at BMW Connected, they are creating no-touch interfaces. It's using voice. It is using gestures, and it's using gaze to be able to control your car. In fact, BMW is partnering with Baidu to provide a vehicle-to-home connectivity where you are from home, using your consumer electronic home automation device, you're able to control your car. And you have scenarios like PTC, which is built ThinkWorks through a series of interesting acquisitions, a combination of edge data collection products, AR, VR, machine learning, and pooled it together. And because of the success of the product, a company like Rockwell Automation has invested $1 billion into PTC. Right? So you're starting to see very interesting innovation coming in the IoT platforms. And second is RPA, 2 dominant companies in this area. And interesting, both the companies, the large part of the engineering was not based out of Silicon Valley. And UiPath, which is valued at $7 billion, right, and have 100,000 developers already building on top of UiPath. It was largely built in Eastern Europe, and now they're rapidly growing here. Automation Anywhere, the large part of the engineering was based out of a tier 2 city in India. And the company has several intelligent bots, and they have one of the largest marketplace for intelligent bots. And that is rapidly growing over the last few years. So RPA platforms are also something which is rapidly growing. And third, if you look at intelligent AI platforms, every cloud infrastructure platform, be it Ali Cloud, Amazon, Azure, are becoming a lot more intelligent, and they're building the machine learning part into the core of the platform. So if you're an application company, you don't need to worry about machine learning. You can worry only about the domain expertise required and the problem statements faced by the customers, and everything else you're able to leverage intelligent platforms. Right? So a lot of these platforms are using the simple module and trying to differentiate themselves in the market. And it's not just tech companies. 85% of the top 100 enterprises are building some kinds of platform. In fact, 1/3 of these companies have started building platform just in the last 3 years. Right? And if you take an example of Aladdin, all of you know about BlackRock, right? BlackRock was the largest asset management company, but they in fact have built a platform called Aladdin, which they're selling to the other asset management companies and make over $600 million of revenue and has over $20 trillion of assets under management in Aladdin. You're starting to see enterprises realizing the value of digital platforms and building these platforms are not just for their own use, but also using and monetizing this as a new business and gaining revenue from these. But building these platforms are not easy. There are several challenges companies face. First is lack of having a vision. A lot of times, somebody has come to a conference like this, they go back and say, hey, let's build a platform. So really no understanding of what the customer is looking for and lacks a vision for building a platform. Second, organizations are structured in silos. When your organization is silo, and platform by definition needs horizontal capability. And that becomes very difficult for organizations to start building platforms. Third, some of the platforms are built as closed platforms. So you're not able to leverage the platform outside. You're not able to leverage the ecosystem to build on top of your platform. And for building platforms, you need full stack engineers. And it's so hard to find full stack engineers. They're almost becoming the next unicorns. Not the billion-dollar companies. Easy to find billion-dollar unicorns, but you find a full stack platform engineer, very hard to find, even in Silicon Valley. And platform by definition requires trust, security. Even companies like Facebook has squandered. Facebook used to store our passports in a flat file, encrypted flat file, right? So a lot of the challenges faced by for building platforms. And we looked at all of this and said, hey, is there a way we can define and distill a set of best practices companies can use to be able to build and enhance their existing platforms? And we looked at two broad dimensions. One is structure, and structure around the culture of the company, the organization structure, the talent, as well as investment required to build a platform. And the programs, so the programs around building a platform, programs around enabling the ecosystem on top of your platform, and finally, how do we have your customers also co-innovate on top of the platform, right? So we have both of these, and I'll quickly take you through some of the key aspects of each of these, both structure as well as programs. If you look at culture, and Emma talked about the enterprise retreat, one of the words we heard across all the CEOs is culture. We now almost never used to hear culture as a big differentiation in building organization. But today, because of the fact that things are changing so rapidly, everyone talks about culture. And take an example of Microsoft, right? Microsoft went through what is called the lost decade, almost for 10 years, 20 years. They're relying on Microsoft Office and Windows operating system. The search engine initiative failed. They spent $8 billion in Nokia, and that was a miserable failed acquisition. And analysts, investment analysts were writing off Microsoft, say, hey, Microsoft is the next IBM. But things have changed so rapidly in the last 2 years. They've removed organizations siloed and made the organization a lot more horizontal. They changed what is core, the core from an operating system company to a cloud and mobile company. And they changed the incentive structure of the sales team. The sales team can retire quotas by selling their partner products, not just Microsoft products. And they've been so quick to react on new technology trends, they moved the entire Microsoft research organization into that AI product team. And they went out and acquired LinkedIn and GitHub at very high valuation because they know that that's how the future is going to be built. And finally, they have built a culture which is so good in managing extreme pace of change. And that's something Microsoft has done really well. And if you want to be a platform company, you have to build a culture which will manage change quite rapidly. And the second part is how organizations are structured. And there are two broad areas, right? You have a vertical structure and you have a horizontal structure. Every time a new CEO comes, they change from the horizontal structure to the vertical structure, or with the vertical CEO, the CEO will come and change the other way, right? So it keeps going back and forth every 3-4 years by new CEO. But if you look at the other model, what we call is a microservices structure for building an organization. In this scenario, each part of the organization is independent, intelligent, and entrepreneurial, and parts of it come together to form a business unit. And Amazon, in fact, built this organization based on a video game named Creation. And if you look at Amazon, if you look at the data center business, the storage, the network, the server, all of these are independent modules. And the e-commerce team can put it together to make it a lot more efficient for the specific workload. And they made that available for third party, and now there's a $20 billion business. Same with the shipping part of Amazon, that they built it into a microservice architecture, so every other merchant are able to use the same shipping infrastructure Amazon built for themselves, and 40% of all of Amazon's retail revenue is from third party, not from Amazon's own retail, right? So creating an organization structure which is structured like microservices is going to be extremely important to be a platform company. And third is attracting talent. Like I said, full stack engineer is like a unicorn. All of Bay Area, all of East Bay and South Bay and North Bay, all have combined the number of engineers who are working on platforms, which is tech platform. This is from our Drop platform, is 13,000 engineers. Only 4,000 engineers working on AI machine learning. And the engineers already get over 25% more compared to a traditional engineer, right? So you have to start looking at where are these talent, which other location? Do I go to Detroit? Do I go to Austin? Do I go to Bangalore? Do I go to Shanghai? Do I go to Lithuania? Which location can I attract this talent? You have to have a global talent strategy to be able to build platforms. And you got to commit in terms of investment. Building a platform, it's a change in your overall business model. It's not a POC. It's not you spending $500,000 or $1 million and creating something. This is about committing yourself into a new business model, right? And it could be investment in startups, investment in building platform for new geographies. It's about building a platform like IoT and RPA, but committing fully into that is going to be very, very important. So it's from a structure perspective, you got to get your culture right, you got to get your organization structure, you got to have your talent strategy right, and you got to get the investment commit. Next, let's look at the programs. The first part of the program, it's about getting the right leadership. What we are in fact seeing is in several enterprises, they're starting to go and hire leaders from technology companies. In fact, a lot of you working in technology companies here, you have a great career opportunity in the traditional enterprises because all of them are looking for people from technology industry to go out and start building platforms. Second, you got to create centers of excellence which will focus on building these areas. If you look at companies like Ericsson, creating centers of excellence around AI, 5G in various global locations where they can attract and retain top high-quality talent. Having that is going to be extremely critical. And third, having a mindset which is customer first. What is that my customer is looking for to solving the problems? How do I build something which is relevant for the customer? That is going to be very, very important when you start building platforms. And the second part of it is, how do you scale through the ecosystem? Right? You can't directly just sell your platform. If you look at companies like Microsoft, very strong partnership with what they call as global system integrators, who can become a channel to take your platform, customize your platform, and deploy your platform across the globe. And having working with startups, even companies, even hospitals like Mayo Clinic are working with startups. They're licensing their technology to startup so that the startups can monetize, productize the technology which Mayo Clinic have been able to build internally using their deep domain expertise. And third is about leveraging the vast ecosystem of developers, and we are moving into a era of citizen developer, where it requires a lot of not much of coding skills, and you got to build a platform which is so easy to use. Anybody can build, anybody can code using a platform, and you have to have very strong programs to evangelize and sign up developers from across the globe. And finally, about strategic M&A, I talked about RPA companies where they are built across the world. So when you're looking at M&A, you got to look at M&A of companies, enterprise software companies from China, from India, from Romania, from other locations. Don't have a narrow vision of looking at companies only in the Bay Area, because the next generation of enterprise software is going to come from across the world, and you got to be able to tap into the talent and the companies from everywhere. And finally, is about how do you accelerate by working with customers? How do you co-innovate? And how do you build something which is relevant? Right? Well, interesting thing about platforms, it's the platform gets morphed to the need of individual customer, and it builds a moat around your business model, so very difficult for anybody else to come in. So co-investing with your customers, even in scenarios, you can invest and build joint IPs where you can take that IP and take it to other companies, other competitors of a customer together, right? And you also have to rely and lean on domain expertise of your customer and see what other use cases can get enabled by using the platform you have built. So working and having a platform where you're working with customers, co-innovating, building IP, that is going to be extremely important. And if you're able to build the platform with the right structure, you're able to work with the ecosystem and accelerate the platformization with customers, and really, sky is the limit. This is one of our favorite quotes from Peter Thiel. If you have a 10-year plan on how to get somewhere, you should ask, why can't you do this in 6 months? Moving from a product to platform will enable you to accelerate your innovation. In many ways, it can even extend the life of innovation because of how your innovation gets evolved using partners and customers. And you're going to hear very interesting stories through the year, to the day today around platformization. Thank you.